So let's start with this.
In this video, we're going to talk about static charge. We want to answer what is the role of electrons in the formation of static charge. If we would recall the atomic structure, we know that it has three subatomic particles. The first is the electron, which is the negatively charged. The second is the proton, which is the positively charged. And the third is the neutron, which is the neutrally charged, or simply zero charge. So, how do atoms become charged? As atoms interact with one another, they can either lose or gain electrons. Transferring of electrons produces charged atoms, which are also called ions. The charge of an atom depends on the number of its protons minus the number of electrons. In this example, we have 2 protons minus 2 electrons is equal to 0. It means that this atom is neutral. Since atoms are the building blocks of matter, therefore, the charge of a body is the sum of all the individual charges of the atoms that compose the body. Initially, you can see that the balloon and the jacket are electrically neutral. But due to friction, the electrons from the jacket moved to the balloon, which made it negatively charged, and the jacket positively charged. An imbalance between the positive and negative charges in an object creates the static charge. So here is an example. Based on the illustration given, what is the charge of body A? For the first atom, we have equal number of electrons and protons, therefore we have zero charge. For the second atom, we have 2 protons but 0 electron, therefore we have positive 2 charge. So for the third atom, we have 2 protons and 3 electrons, which will give us a charge of negative 1. Adding all these charges together, that will give us positive 1, which means body A has a charge of positive 1. Okay, let's try this.
Okay, so let's check whether you got the concept. Sige po, can you try this one? How much would be the charge of body B? If you will refer on the illustration. Okay, we have 3 answers. Ayan, marami nang sumagot. So, all of your answers, so starting from Melchor, negative 1, we have Aliyah, Louisa May, Joseph, Justin, Alvin, Wendell, Ivy Jane, Arvin, John, Abigail, Gerald. We also have Jose. So all of your answers uh, resulted to only one value, which is negative 1. So let's continue. If you got it, ready.
1. Based on the illustration, what is the charge of body B? The answer to this is negative 1, and
Okay, so you got it correctly. So if you will refer on the illustration, so the first atom, it's equal number of protons, electrons, so 0. Second atom, same lang, 0 ulit. Then the third atom has an extra charge or has an extra electron, which will give us a value of negative 1 coulomb. Okay? So I think nakuha nyo na yung concept nito. So from this specific video, ang hindi lang dito na-mention ay kapag naging positively charged ang isang atom, we call it the uh, cation, CAT plus ion. Okay, so cation. Kapag naging negatively charged naman yung atom, so we call it the anion. A-N-I-O-N. So anion. Okay, so the process of charging an atom, we call it the ionization. So it means that the atom has an imbalanced number of protons and electrons. All right. So, are there questions, clarifications related to this concept? May question pa ba kayo? Sige, Astro.
Ma'am, doon po ma'am sa ano natin kanina, yung pong parang activity natin kanina with the hair and the balloon. Why is it
Mm-hmm.
ma'am that the electrons transfer from like the hair to the balloon and not the other way around po?
Okay, so that's a good question. Okay? So, tinatawag natin yon na triboelectric series. So, that is a table which will rank the object depending on the amount of its affinity to electron. It's just that based on experience and every time na nagkakaroon ng mga ganitong experiment, usually objects that are made up of rubber, nangyayari sa kanila, they have the tendency to gain extra electrons because they have great affinity to extra electrons. Okay? However, this is not true to all materials. So if sige, dun sa ating formative assessment number 1, part 2 or part B, you will observe directly or firsthand that not all materials react on the rubbing process in the same way. So it really depends on their ranking dun sa tinatawag natin triboelectric series. Okay? So iba-iba siya. Every material, they have a different attraction to extra electron. It's just that a rubber, such as the balloon, it has the tendency to gain extra electron, which makes it more negatively charged than positive. Okay? So, did I answer the question?
Yes po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay, sige. Any other interesting and related questions? May tanong pa ba kayo? Okay, kung wala na, we will now move to the next concept. So, ito naman ngayon, ito yung hindi masyadong naipakita ng video. Pero related ito dun sa first question natin regarding the balloon and the bits of paper. This is now the concept of what we call the polarization. So, kagaya ng sinabi ko sa inyo, polarization is the realignment of charges. So, if I have here, hindi, ipakita ko muna yung number of charges pala. So this is a aluminum can. Ayan. So nakikita niyo naman, So this is a aluminum can. And yan. Initially, we can see that this is neutral. So sa ilalim niyang mga blue na yan, blue charges, blue circles, meron diyang negative. So neutral po yan. Okay? What will happen is, I will put the positively charged rod near to the object. So, ano nangyayari sa kanya? Kung saan ko dalhin yung object, yung positively charged object, na-attract. Ano yung na-attract? The negatively charged. Tama? So, the electrons on the neutrally charged can is attracted to the positively charged object. And since the electrons are attracted, nagkakaroon tayo ngayon ng realignment of charges. Lumalapit siya dun sa side na nakaka-experience ng positive charge. Okay? So, ang nangyayari, naiiwan yung mga protons sa kanilang initial position. So, para nagkakaroon ng two different poles, two different sides, kaya polarization. Okay? So, that's the effect of the presence of a charged body on a neutral object. So, paano naman ngayon kapag, sige, yung isa naman, so tapos na tayo sa positive charge. Ito ngayon, ito yung mas malapit dun sa ating balloon experiment kanina. Kasi ito ay negatively charged. So, pag nilapit natin siya sa object, so what happens to the electrons of the aluminum can? Okay, nare-repel sila. Kasi nga, negative. So, negative yung electron, napapalayo. So, ang nangyayari, yung mga protons ngayon ay naiiwan dun sa kanilang original position. Nagkakaroon ng realignment or polarization. So, which makes the can even though it's a neutral object because of the equal numbers of electrons and protons. Pero, since nag-realign sila, may surface siya or may side siya na opposite ang charge dun sa ating rad, which makes it influenced by the presence. Na-attract pa din siya. So from here, this demonstrates two different concepts. The first is polarization. The second is the law of attraction. Sige nga, anyone who can give us the law of attraction? Ano ba yung sinasabi ni law of attraction? So it starts with like charges blank. Okay, Arvin.
Like charges repel, ma'am, and unlike charges attract.
Okay, very good. So, like charges repel each other, while the unlike charges attract each other. Okay? So, yun yung isa pang concept na nade-demonstrate dito. So, I think this clearly demonstrates the concept of polarization. And kagaya ng sabi natin kanina, neutral pa rin yung can. It's just that nagkaroon lang siya ng realignment of charges. Okay. So, we will now proceed to the next part. So, ang next part natin ay punta na tayo dun sa charging by conduction. So, ibig sabihin, two charged bodies, which are conductors, nagkalapit sila sa bawat isa. So, I cannot find a specific illustration for that. I'll just describe it. Okay? So, yung concept na yon ay nasa ating reading material. So, as a way also of closing this topic, so let's try to answer some of the questions found on the reading material. Okay. Sige. So, simulan natin sa number 1. So, ito, hindi pa natin ito masyadong na-discuss. So, it's understood or it's understandable kapag kung magkamali pa kayo sa pagpili nyo ng sa mga options. So, I will read the question, then you are to answer. So, you will choose the letter of the answer that you think is the correct answer for the question. Number 1, original charges, positive 3 coulombs and negative 2 coulombs, are unidentical conductors. What are the new charges after the contact? So, let me explain muna. Pahapyaw lang. So, meron ka daw dalawang conductors. Okay? The other one is positively charged and the other one is negatively charged. So, if you will try to rephrase it, yung isang conductor, kulang siya sa electron. Yung isa naman, marami siyang electron. Kumbaga, mas marami sa sa kailangan niya. So, when we put them together, so what would happen? Sa tingin nyo, what do you think would happen if we put these two differently charged spheres together? Sige, can you guess what would be the amount of charges of the two individual spheres after the contact? Sige, is it A, B, C, or D? So we have an answer. Sige, how about the rest? Okay lang yan. Kung hindi pa kayo sure, we will process and try to come up with the correct answer. Okay. So, ang majority sa answers nyo ay letter A. Sige, let's think about the consequence of putting these two oppositely charged conductors together. So, yung isa daw, yung isa kulang sa charge, kulang sa electron. Yung isa naman, sobra sa electron. Pag pinagdikit natin sila, anong mangyayari? Sige, ano kaya mangyayari dun sa extra electrons nung isa, tapos yung dun sa atoms na kulang sa electron? Most probably, they will they will find each other. Okay? So, hahanapin nung may mga sobrang electrons, yung mga atoms na kulang sa electron. Okay? So, what would happen is there would be a redistribution of charges. Ngayon, pag na-redistribute na siya, so remember, magkadikit pa yan. So, after the redistribution, so magkadikit pa sila, we consider it as 1. So, pag kinonsider natin sila as 1, ilan ba yung net charge? If we consider them as 1 after the redistribution. We have 3 plus positive 3 plus negative 2. So, ilan sila? As 1, they have a net charge of ilan ang value? So, as 1, they have a net charge of negative or positive? Okay, positive 1. So, ulitin natin sa mga hindi nakasunod. Okay, meron, yung isa, kulang ng 3 electrons. Yung isa, merong 2 extra electrons. Pag pinagdikit natin sila, magkakaroon ng redistribution. So, dahil 2 lang yung extra electron, may isang hindi malalagyan. So, meron, together, when we consider that charge, merong isang kulang. So, that is positive 1 together. However, if we will look individually, so ilan ngayon? Kung together their charges is positive 1, what if we consider their charges individually? Ilan yung magiging value ng individual metal sphere? We should just divide it into 2. Okay? So, dahil together, they have positive 1 charge, positive 1 coulomb. So, ibig sabihin, individually, ang kanilang charge ay positive 0.5 coulomb and positive 0.5 coulomb. So, that is one characteristic of charging by conduction. At the end of the process, 2 different objects will have equal and the same amount of charges. Nakuha? Were you able to get it? So, nagkakaroon siya ng equilibrium. Okay? So, nagkakaroon ng redistribution of charges. Now, can I get a confirmation kung nakuha niyo ba yung explanation? Were you able to get it? Wala? Hindi niyo nakuha? Sige, please answer. Pakiulit na lang. Sige. Okay ulit natin. So, yung isa, merong positive 3. Yung isa, may negative 1. They are both spherical metals. When we put them together, yung mga extra electrons na dalawa, i-redistribute nila. Okay? So, when they are in contact, there will be a redistribution process finding their equilibrium. So, ibig sabihin, since positive 3 at saka negative 2 yung charges, i-add nyo lang yan. So, positive 3 plus negative 2, the result of the net charge will be positive 1 when they are together. Pero ang tinatanong natin ngayon, what if we want to consider the charges individually? So, the characteristic of charging by conduction is that after the process, the metals or the conductors will have the same amount of charge. So, positive 1, you just divide it by 2. So, pinaghati nyo yung amount ng charge sa kanilang dalawa. Okay? Nakuha? Are you able to get it? So, individually, they have positive 0.5 coulombs individually. Okay. Now, ngayon, after the process of conduction, edi parehas na sila ng positive. Let's proceed to number 2. So, immediately after the contact of the conductors in number 1, what will happen next? Ano nang mangyayari dyan? Is it A? Will they repel, attract, letter B? Or C, increase in the total charge? Or letter D, they will gain energy? So ano sa tingin nyo? So sabi natin, the correct answer for number 1 is B. They have both positive charges. So the next question would be, immediately after the contact of the conductors in number 1, what will happen? Anong mangyayari? So based on the law of charges, of course, they will repel each other. Okay, so the correct answer here is they will repel each other. So since parehas na silang positive after the contact, so magre-repel na sila. Now that yun na yung nagiging situation. Kaya merong mga demonstration, I cannot just find it. Initially, they have different charges. Once nagkaroon ng contact, nagre-repel. So, at first, you will think, parang magic siya. Pero the reason for that is charging by conduction. Okay? So, that's it. So, let's now proceed to the next question. So, two charged objects repel each other through the electric force. What are these charges? So you have options A, one positive and one negative. Letter B, both positive. Letter C, both negative. And letter D, both B and C. What is the correct answer? Okay, I can already see two different answers. Merong pumili ng C, merong pumili ng D. Parehas daw yung positive and negative. So ano ba talaga yung tamang answer dito? So the question here is, ano daw ba ang charge ng object kung nagre-repel sila? So if there are two charged objects and they repel each other, ano yung possible na charges nito? The correct answer to this is letter D. Yan. Kahit positive parehas o negative parehas, they will just have the same result or effect, which is they will repel each other. Okay? So kahit positive or negative yung dalawang objects. Okay, next question. How about number 4? Ito, nadaanan natin kanina. So hopefully you get this correctly. You have two lightweight metal spheres, each hanging from an insulating nylon thread. One of the spheres has a net negative charge, while the other sphere has no net charge. If the spheres are close together but do not touch, what will happen? 1. Attract each other. B. Repel each other. Number 3. Sorry, 1, 2, 3 pala to. Number 3. Exert no force on each other. So, ano yung mangyayari dyan? Isang sphere, negative charge. Yung isang sphere, walang charge. If they are put close together, what will happen? We have, okay, 4, 5 students. Okay, 5 students answered number 3 daw. Wala daw force. Hindi daw sila magkakaroon ng effect sa bawat isa. Is that true? Tama ba yon? So again, the situation here is the other one is has a net negative charge. The other one is neutral or no net charge. Pag pinaglapit natin sila, anong mangyayari? So majority of the answers, pinili nyo yung exert no force on each other. So I believe that's also what is written on the answer key there. But at this point, I would like to correct it. So everyone, please correct the answer key. The correct answer to that is they should attract each other. Okay, paki-correct na lang po. The correct answer is 1. Di ba sabi natin, positive, any charged object will have an effect on an object which is neutrally charged because of the polarization. So, pwede siyang magkaroon ng polarization. Kaya magkakaroon pa rin ng attraction kahit neutral yung isa. Okay? So, kindly, siguro nakita nyo naman dun sa ating can, diba? Na pinakita pa natin yan dun sa can natin. So, kindly correct the answer key there. It should be number 1, not number 3. Okay? Sige po, paki-correct na lang yung answer key natin. Next question, letter B. So, you now allow the two spheres to touch. Once they have touched, what will happen to the spheres? So, yung isa may net charge, yung isa wala. Pag pinagdikit natin sila, since pareha silang metal, conduction will happen. So, ano mangyayari? Nung nagdikit sila, parehas na silang magiging negatively charged. So, immediately after the contact, we are expecting for them, okay, Wendell is correct, to repel each other. So, I think tama naman yung answer key dyan. And lastly, I think this is self-explanatory. Saan daw, ano daw yung correct path ng electron? So, kung electron, definitely, saan siya mapupuntang plate? So, alin dyan ang correct path niya? Kung negatively charged ang electron, will it go to the positive or the negative plate? Or hindi siya maaapektuhan? Okay, definitely, it should be letter A. Path A. Okay? So, I hope we're able to clarify things related to electrostatics. So, if you have questions or clarifications, please feel free to, you can comment on our materials para din makasama yung iba, mga classmates nyo sa discussion natin. Okay? So, that ends our discussion.